Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the JumpCut Play YouTube channel. I am joined by fellow virtual reality aficionado Aidan Bain.
Hello, Kyle.
And as you can probably tell by the fact I mentioned VR, today we're going to talk about PlayStation VR in particular, rather than VR as a whole. For a couple reasons, we are probably the only people at JumpCut that have a VR.
Yep.
We're just that, we're just that elite. We're just that, we have
those
these
guys.
Things. We got all the latest tech, just pops up in the door. But also PSVR2. I don't know if you know this, but the rumor now, they were always preparing for a 2022 launch.
Mm-hmm.
But now folk are thinking it could be March, as early as that. So
it's actually, I haven't actually been keeping up with the latest of what's been happening with it, because I remember when it got announced and I was like, I know I'll get too excited, so I kind of shut it off. So then when it gets announced. But it's also 5 years
is it?
since the launch of the PSVR.
Well, that's mental. That is mental. But the reason I guess I can tell you, the reason there is this rumor is two reasons. So first of all, Gran Turismo 7 comes out in March, and folk are like adamant that is a launch title for PSVR 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure when they asked the director of that, like, oh, is there any PSVR plans? Rather than just saying no, he was like, we can't comment. So I think GT7 is 100% coming to PSVR 2, whether it's a launch title. We don't know. GT7.
Oh, sorry. I was like, wait, mate. 6 isn't even out yet. What was it?
They come out on stage like, we're happening on GTA 7.
I hope that's the case, because I'm lined up to review GT7 for somewhere. I remember playing the VR for, I think it must have been the last Gran Turismo game, and my mate nearly threw my headset off the wall because he was driving. He's like, this is amazing. And then he flipped the car and the whole thing just went over, and he was like, obviously when you're moving and you're not moving,
like the caricature in the adverts.
Like, whoa. Exactly.
And the second point, which is a little less, maybe it's less or more convincing. So at the last PlayStation event, when they showed off Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced, or whatever the fuck it's called, there was a moment in that trailer, very briefly, where it was a first-person view, and the POV that you saw looked at an angle that wouldn't make sense if you were controlling it with a controller. Like the way, I know it's like, what? When you see it, I'm like, I get where they're coming from with that. It's like just the way it was moving. Plus, that also comes out in March. So correlations.
GTA 5 in VR would make me buy GTA 5 like remastered or whatever it's called.
I think that's the difficult thing, is the fact, if that is the case, that they're not like, look, I know you're all raging because it looks like GTA 5 again, but it's in VR, that's why it's enhanced. But so I don't know if that is the case. They just need to come out and say it, because that's going badly.
Yeah, I mean, looking though, the problem I think you'd have with that, looking back at the last 5 years of PlayStation VR as well, is, well, partnering it up with like, VR's got a decent fan base, but it's not got like a big AAA game making something, like it's not that successful. And I think that's evident to the fact that Resident Evil 7 done really well in VR, yet we didn't get VR in Resident Evil 8.
Not yet.
Like, not yet. But then looking ahead to PSVR 2, the reason I'm kind of doubtful on something like GTA 5 is that the people are still struggling to get PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Are you then saying the limited amount of people, because they're talking about, oh, it's sold this amount, it's breaking records and stuff, and like, but a majority, I mean, the fact that we are a year in and Game are still putting out calls, the night before to say, by the way, we're going to be selling these in the morning, and then they're going immediately again. Yeah. The fact that you're still getting that you're really, your PlayStation 5 audience is so small already, then to say the people that will also pick up a VR, and if it launches in March as well, I'd personally think that would be a rubbish time to launch it, because then after Christmas, like everybody's skin.
Yeah.
But what kind of games would you like to? What would you like to see, like the next kind of big focus for PSVR 2 and the kind of games that come out?
I mean, maybe before I mention games, I'll quickly say I think there was a PlayStation event for developers that wasn't really broadcast, and they talked about the specs of the headset. And I believe, I wish I pulled it up here, but I think it's a 4K display that's capable of HDR. So already,
Oh.
like, they are going pretty hard on like, this is next gen VR. This isn't your Oculus Quest. Whether that means it's going to cost an arm and a leg, who knows? But I guess, I mean, I think what I would like to see is just the lack of that. I mean, it's a difficult one because like there's often this relationship with like PC VR. It's like, oh, PC VR is better because there's just more games. But I feel like PlayStation VR is at the point that it's got a lot of exclusives, maybe more exclusives than PC VR, other than Half-Life Alyx and Boneworks and stuff like that. You know, like Blood and Truth, Hitman 3, which I hope gets. I'd love to see Hitman 3 get a second attempt with full control. You know, now that they'll have the new controllers, I think that is desperate need of a PS5 2 VR upgrade or whatever.
Yeah,
100%. So that's a big one for me. I think. I think the dream is that, like Hitman 3, we see more and more games have this option rather than this is the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim VR, you know, or this, like, I know you want a No Man's Sky, you want a Resident Evil 7, you want, we're happy to announce Resident Evil 7, you know, when Resident Evil 7 came out and everyone's, oh, cool, I love Resident Evil 7. And then they're like, by the way, it's free to play in VR. It's like, then that way nobody complains because you get that people are always going to be like, VR shit. You're always going to get that. People are always going to detract from it. But if it's a case of, in my head, I can see this big Sony, whatever they call the Sony Nintendo Direct, where they show the next, like, they're like, here's an update on all our games in 2022. And at the end of the conference, they go, all playable in VR. And then they announce the VR2 headset. That's like, I think what needs to happen.
Yeah, I think to have at least, even if it's not the full playable game, but see to have some sort of VR portion as an add-on or like a freebie to all of their exclusives, I think would be really cool. Like even if you're looking to something like Horizon Forbidden West, obviously you can't really play that kind of game in VR, like the full thing. But like if they had like a wee, see if they had a wee like VR segment where it's like explore the ruins of San Francisco.
The last I heard, that is a thing. Apparently there is a Horizon VR experience being made. So
yeah, so like that's I can imagine like they need to have like the kind of little add-ons to all of their exclusives. And I think if you partner that up with the kind of games that are going to be hits anyway, you know, if you have it in the big exclusives and then people go, well, you know, maybe that's a little bit of an extra reason because like I've been meaning to try it Super Hot, I've been meaning to try it Beat Saber for years, but I'm getting Horizon this time of year, getting God of War Ragnarok, and they've got little cool VR experiences. I'd like to try that out because I think that's the problem. There's not a lot of like big sellers for VR. It's a lot of like, it's a hard thing to sell because you say Super Hot's amazing, you say Beat Saber's amazing, you say Resident Evil 7's amazing, but a lot of them are just like, maybe not Resident Evil 7, but the kind of games that would like, that's fun to try out.
But even like Blood and Truth was only like 4 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're fun things to try, but it's worth spending, you know, what was it, £300?
Yeah, it was expensive when it came out.
Yeah, I think I managed to get mine with a bunch of stuff for like 200 actually.
Got mine secondhand, £100 off my cousin. Don't know what he was thinking. I guess on that note, I mean, I agree and disagree in a sense. I think we need big games. I think that's why people are like GTA 5. We've got Resident Evil 4 coming to Oculus Quest 2, which is really cool. But I think when you get into the realm of buy God of War Ragnarok and there's a cool VR mini game or something, it's like we don't want mini games, we want the game.
Yeah.
Like we need full experiences. I mean, I think for me anyway, the fact that PSVR2 is just going to be one cable is a game changer right out of the box. I'm not having to have that stupid breakout. But the amount of times I've been like, oh, I'd play my PSVR, but I look at it and I'm like, nah, I can't be arsed.
Yeah.
I can't leave it out because I don't have the space and I can't be bothered setting it up. And the cables are starting to die. My PSVR is basically broke. Like it's out of commission. I can't use it, let alone using the cable that you have to get for the PSVR to using the PS5 as well.
Yeah, it's too much of a hassle. That's the thing now. Like it's if you put a barricade in front of the player and the experience, you know, such a large percentage of us are just going to go, nah.
I mean, I think as well, going off that, I mean, I think we've probably spoke about this on the podcast before, that the only way to get people into VR is for them to play it. No trailers work. It's so impossible to advertise. So
they always look bad because the graphics aren't ever as good, you know.
Exactly.
And it's the gameplay looks really slow, but it's really hard to explain how having, you know, like see Pistol Whip.
Yeah,
having the
Yeah,
gun
you
in your
need to
hand
play
and
it.
actually dodging bullets is just
Yeah.
an insane feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time that I got shot in the chest from Super Hot, and it's like,
It's actually
it's
terrifying.
like you look down at yourself and you're almost like touching your chest, like,
Yeah.
that just happened to me because it's such a strange experience. It can only be, you can only really know what it's like if you've actually played it. There's no way that you can describe or showcase it in any other way than just trying it out yourself.
Well, that's why I think as well, the fact it's one cable, when we can get back to the point that, you know, meeting up with friends indoors is a bit more, normalized. Like, oh, do you want to come around and play some games? Yeah, I'll bring the PSVR2. You need to have a try. You bring the headset and you bring a cable. It's not let me pack it onto a box with a breakout box and 3 6-meter cables. It's just gonna be a case like, yeah, I'll bring it round. And that way as well, if it is the case of like, oh yeah, did you see this game got a free VR patch? Like, yeah, you've already got it installed, just put it on. Like, I think that's the best
that would
route.
be really cool. And I think something that I need from it is wireless headphone support.
Right, okay.
Because that drives me mad. Like, you have the cable that goes down from the headset, and you have to plug it into the little bit there.
Yeah.
Even though I'm using a PlayStation exclusive, a PlayStation specific wireless headset, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
and that is always annoying me because it's just yet another cable for something that already has a bunch of things. So I'm always getting tangled up, and I just, it takes me out of the experience quite a lot of the time. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential in it. I think. Do you think VR is in a better standing now than it was 5 years ago?
It's a tough question, isn't it? It's hard to actually put into perspective how far VR has come. Like when you think, I remember being back in high school like a decade ago, and the Oculus Rift dev kits were like all you had as a way to kind of play VR. Nobody owned them because they were dev kits. And then eventually they started releasing like the Oculus Rift, and like you maybe knew like one person who owned it. You'd see them in like a John Lewis or something like that. You could give it a shot. But you'd always be like, oh, well, I'm never going to buy it. I can't afford it. I don't have a gaming computer. A gaming computer, a PC. God, what's wrong with me? And now the fact that we're at the point, there's multiple VR headsets that are affordable. PSVR 1, obviously, because it's quite old now, really affordable. The games are always on sale. Oculus Quest 2 is just running away with it. And it's like, when you talk to people as well, it's not, I think, because it probably helps with Facebook, being Facebook and they own Oculus. When you talk to somebody who doesn't even like game about VR, it's not like, well, it's impossible. It's like, oh, I've seen that. It looks cool. And there's always, I think when I do talk to people, they're always like, they think it's unaffordable. I'm like, well, if the PSVR 2, like, let's say PSVR 2 is going to cost £400 or maybe $350. So like, that's pretty fair. And I think the Oculus Quest 2 at 300 is part of the reason it sold like 2 million units. So, and even when I first had a PSVR, when I first got it, which was 3 years ago, and the games that were there, although I was like, that's just mind blowing. Oh my God. There was no Beat Saber. There was no Blood and Truth. There was no Walking Dead. There was no No Man's Sky. A lot of it was games, like you said, like I play for a couple of hours and then a push a couple of hours. Now, although the thing doesn't work for me anymore, the fact that I can be like, oh, I'm going to go play No Man's Sky as long as I would as if I was playing on the TV. I'm going to play Resident Evil 7. I'm going to play Hitman 3, although I do wish it still had proper support. But let's say if Hitman 3 did have proper support, I would never have played that game flat screen. Like, it just would not have happened. There'd be no reason to. And I'd find it hard to believe that anyone would be like, nah, I'd rather play a flat screen. And like fair enough, you get motion sickness or stuff like that. But it's like, if you enjoy VR and you had the choice between Hitman 3 with good controls versus Hitman as it is, you're like, it's so much better in VR. So it's been, but even said that, I mean, I could go on for ages, but like this year has been a bit of a lull, I think. There's not really been a Half-Life Alyx or anything like that. I think last year we had Walking Dead and Half-Life. It was like, holy shit, VR is exploding. And then it seems a bit quiet again. So
I'm wondering if that's in part like sort of holding off for the eventual reveal of the PSVR 2. And to kind of briefly touch on the pricing of some of the games, that's something I've always really liked, and the reason I've been quite experimental with the kind of games I've played, because they're always relatively cheap. I don't think I've bought a VR game for over £20, maybe 25. So like that really helps, because I'm like, well, if it's rubbish, it's only a tenner, or whatever, and I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to buy a game for £10 and just play it for 4 hours, in total. Like
so
that.
are you willing to spend AAA price of GTA 5? Okay, let's not say GTA 5. Let's say a brand new Rockstar level IP comes out, and they're like, "Yep, it's the same PS5 price. It's £70."
See, that
You're
would be a
willing.
big issue for me, in the sense that, like you're saying, with like not being able to know what it's like till you've tried it.
Yeah.
There are some games for me that I do get motion sick on. There's some games that just
There needs
just
to be
don't
a
have
demo
it.
system, I think.
Yeah, they just don't have the controls down, because VR control, especially with the old system, the old remotes, it's really easy for them to just make a very convoluted and stupid controller system where doesn't feel intuitive to play. That's why games like Pistol Whip work, because it's like dodge, shoot. It's really just you moving and pushing one button. That's really it. So, like, for when it opens up to bigger games, and if you're talking full price games, it would depend on how well it's integrated into the control system and how good it feels in terms of movement.
Yeah, was it Half-Life Alyx was a full price game? That was like, it was £50. I was like 100% worth it. It is, even though that game's like 10 hours long. Like, I would have bought it flat screen because it's just that good.
I think for me, there's a lot of promise in a lot of games. Like I reviewed a game for the site a while back. It was like some, Swords of Gargantua, it was called, and it's like real life sword play.
Yeah,
and the idea of it's cool. Execution, nah. Like it has the odd moment, where you lift your shield and it hits, you block a sword or whatever. And you're like, that's very cool. But then you start to get into it, you're like, there's only like 3 moves in this thing, and I'm actually better just spamming my sword in this guy's face.
Yeah, I think I do wonder where like indie games like that will fare. I guess, because I think now, like you're saying, how I feel about the state of VR as it was 5 years ago. When you go to play a game, even like Pistol Whip, as much as I like it when I'm playing it, and part of me is like, I wish this was like a mechanic in a full length story driven game, which they're experimenting with. They've added story campaigns, which are great. But even like Blade and Sorcery and like those Swords Gargantua type games, like, oh, this is cool. This is quite good combat. I'm like, this would be better in a Skyrim type of game. They need so I don't know how indie games are going to, I don't think they're going to die, because there's some really great indie VR games. I mean, really, Beat Saber didn't start off as the giant it is.
I think Sony are going to still keep a keen focus on that, because it allows them to beef out the library as well.
And they've bought Sony have bought a bunch of VR studios. Like in the background, they've just been buying and buying. They must have. I think if it is out next year, which it definitely is coming out at some point next year, I think their launch window is going to be insane. I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping. I'm really hoping that they do double down on like whatever they've got in store for PSVR2, because it has a potential. I always feel like the first generation of PSVR has been a little bit of an experiment. You've got your odd gems here or there, but across the last 5 years since it launched, I'm still talking about the first game I ever played, which is super hot, or Beat Saber. These are the games that I played the first day I got.
You have missed a lot, to be fair.
All right.
I could give you I could give you a list of, what? Shout out, PSVR with it Pro, who I interviewed a while back. They do a quarterly 25 list. That'll keep you right, mate. Doom 3 might be on it though, so can we trust them? I don't know.
Got shit for that one. Did I get that 3 out of 10?
Yeah, can't remember. 3. What's wrong with this guy? Fucking idiot. Sorry, it's his fault. I helped him.
That's all you. But I suppose we should probably wrap this up before we've blasted past our time limit.
Yeah, I know we set a 10-minute limit, and they're like, nah, it's not happening. But I mean, let us know in the comments if you. I mean, I'm curious to hear about people who aren't interested in VR. If this does interest you, like what you're hearing does interest you about VR, what you would need to see to get you into it. I mean, ultimately, what is it going to take you, the uninitiated, to spend over £300 on on a platform that's not proven yet in some ways? Like, it is still a very young platform. I mean, it's proven. Like, the games are there. I mean, like, it's not, it's not a Nintendo Switch or anything like that. It's not something that everyone's like, yeah, I could get that if I had the money. It's like, this is like the bottom of people's.
Yeah, it's because it's a two-step process as well. Like PS5 first and then PSVR. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what it is that because for me, like, I'm just on board with VR already.
Yeah.
But that is because, you sit down, you put that visor on, you're never going to not be into VR, I think.
Yeah.
Once
You have to play the right thing, I think, in that first. If you play something shit, you're like, I feel sick. That's why Super Hot and stuff like that and Pistol Whip, they're the best games to show people. Yeah. VR, baby. Matrix. Maybe they'll release it the same day as the Matrix 4. It'll be like completely Matrix branded. It's all just been a ploy.
It just looks like a slick pair of sunglasses.
Absolutely massive sunglasses. Humongous. Yeah, that was us. We'll be talking more VR probably at some point.
This is
Kyle's Weekly Corner did take a
I was going to say the return.
the return of Kyle's VR Corner on the JumpCast, but thanks very
much.
Me,
Kyle, and Aaron's VR.
It was Kyle's first. You jumped in at the end. We are 3 out of 10s for Doom 3 and like 4s for Swords of Gargantua. I'm here giving 8 out of 10 to Mist. Masterpiece.
Well, not a masterpiece if it's an 8.
But I don't believe in 10s, mate. 10s don't exist. Unless it's It Takes Two, which is a masterpiece. It's 10 out of 10.
Sure.